Shānkaraaya Pratibodhitāṃ Bhagavata Nārayanena Swayam Vyāsena Gratitāṃ Purāṇam Madhye Mahabhāratam Advaitāmritavarshiniṃ Bhagavatīṃ Ashtādashaധ്यायिनीम् Ambatvāmanusandadhāmi Bhagavate Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishāla Buddhe Pullaravindāyata Patraneta Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Pradvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Stotravetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetāmritaduhe Maha. As we are studying this chapter 6 of Bhagavad Geetā, we find that Sri Krishna is addressing a major need of humanity all over the world. Everywhere in this world, people feel, after a little examination of their own life, that their own mind is their main challenge. More than people outside, it is the person inside who needs to be handled maturely. Somehow, we don't know from early part of this life or from previous lives, everybody finds herself or himself having certain good side, but certain negative sides too. Some habits, some likes and dislikes, some prejudices, some notions, some outlooks, and so on, inhibit every person in dealing with life in a harmonious way. There is friction, there is conflict, there is so much of strife. People live hurting each other everywhere, in organizations, in families, and so on. Life is full of conflict. And Bhagavad Gita, everywhere, and especially in this chapter 6, gives some excellent tips on how we may change. When we change, our world will change. Our world is nothing but a reflection of what we are. Like the popular example goes, somebody went to a place where there were several hills in all the directions, and he started saying loudly some abusive words. And all the hills gave it back to him. If he scolded them, hills seemed to scold him back, echo. And he felt very bad. Then he spoke good words, kind words, loving words, and all the hills echoed those kind words. Therefore, when we change, the outer world also changes. Therefore, various techniques, methods are prescribed, and spirituality is the very basis for all those hundreds of ways in which we may change. There is an attempt these days to present spiritual truths without the packaging of any religion. There is a whole group of people everywhere who say we are SBNR. What is SBNR? Spiritual but not religious. They don't wish to go to temples or some places of prayer, but they practice things like mindfulness, things like some exercises, physical, breathing, and even mental exercises, without connecting those exercises with any religion. Now, we find if we scratch the surface, whatever they do is found in the religious teachings of Bhagavad Gita. What makes something religious and what makes something not religious but spiritual? You remove some concepts like God, you remove concepts like reincarnation, you remove concepts like heaven and hell. All the religions have these. Now, Buddhism may not have concept of God, but they do believe in reincarnation. Last week there was news that His Holiness the Dalai Lama somewhere in America found a boy and said this boy is reincarnation of some great saint of yesteryears. Perhaps that boy is now going to be appointed in some position in some monastery. That boy will become maybe a lama in due course of time. So they believe in reincarnation. They believe in some versions of heaven, hell, and so on. Therefore, Buddhism and Jainism have no God, but other components of religions. Of course, the Semitic religions have God also, heaven and hell also, and many rituals and a large bunch of beliefs. So a lot of younger people, especially these days, want to be away, keep away from temples or religious beliefs, but they want to handle their mind. Let me say, chapter 6 has enough material for them, how they may handle their mind. Presently, we saw verse 16. Natyashnatastu yogosti, nachaikantam anashnataha, nachati swapnashilasya, jagrato naiva chatra. Excess anywhere is not going to help. Excessive sleep, excessive food, excessive talking, and other way around also. Too less of food, too less of sleep, too less of talking. That means not saying things when they need to be said. That also can have serious consequences. All these excess or too less than what is optimum will disturb the peace of mind of anybody. And when somebody does not have peace, he cannot even practice various spiritual exercises. Therefore, moderation in food, speech, sleep, and so on has been prescribed by Sri Krishna here as very necessary for going ahead, progressing spiritually. Let's see the second verse in the same set of two verses, emphasizing moderation. In chapter 6 here, verse 17, Shankaracharya says, Katham punaha yogaha bhavati. Say once more how spiritual excellence can be attained. Uchyate, it is being said. And this 17th is more popular than even the 16th. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu Yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. The word yukta that appears 3 times in this shloka is to be taken as meaning moderate, neither excess nor too less. There was a girl who used to talk too much, just would not keep quiet. And her parents told her, please shut up your mouth. And she got frightened. She stopped talking. But then it seems at night, when all are asleep in that joint family with many members under the same roof, the girl would be also asleep in a sense, but she would whole night be talking, consciously or without being conscious. And that caused so much disturbance to everybody. Nobody could sleep well at night. And then it is said they folded their hands and requested their daughter, please talk as much as you like during the day, but at night, sleep and allow us to sleep. So it's not easy for people who talk too much to reduce, leave alone, stop, etc. Reducing is very difficult. And it's not just a matter of self-control. It's a matter of that person himself seeing the lack of necessity to say things. The person himself has to see how the other person is not interested in what he is trying to say. And there are other people who may want to speak, who may want to share some thought when 4 or 5 of us are sitting. So the person himself has to see, I am talking too much, not allowing others to talk. I am getting into every topic. I am not keeping quiet, and so on. The person has to see the inappropriateness of his over talking, overeating, oversleeping, whatever. What does it mean? Not just willpower, but jnana, understanding. The simple example goes, if you see a snake by the roadside, you use your willpower to stand at a distance and do something about the snake. But then imagine you were to bring a flashlight and light up that spot to check what kind of snake it is, and you discover it is only a rope. When your understanding changes, this is not a snake, this is a rope, then the whole thing becomes a different ball game. You just walk away laughing. Likewise, some of us talk too much, some of us do not talk enough, some of us eat too much, some of us do not eat enough, some of us sleep too much, some of us sleep too less. All these are causes of much misery to ourselves and to others also. Sleep and food and talk are 3 main areas, but there are a number of other areas. Excess has to be avoided. Sri Krishna therefore says, Yukta ahara, moderate in food, ahara, vihara, movements. Some people socialize too much. Some people, without there being a true need, simply go from place A to B, B to C, and so on. There are some people who do not rest during the weekends. Weekends also they fill up with visiting relatives and friends or inviting somebody and so on. So they don't balance work and rest. They don't give themselves to rest at all. Vihara, movements. then chesta, so many other activities, any other activities. So some are hyperactive and some are so laid back, even if others push them, come on, do something, they don't do. So lazy or so directionless, always postponing things. So this is a nice commentary on living. Find out where there is either excess or less than what is desirable. Sometimes these are the topics which are brought under the general word balancing. Stephen Covey talks about P by PC balance, and with a touch of humor, he narrates cases. Some people go on working on having greater PC production capacity, but they don't produce. He talks about he talks about dark clouds gathering in the skies, but not raining, just moving away. No rains. He talks about some students who are reading and reading and reading, but they don't write the essay, they don't submit the thesis, they don't produce what the teachers and others are expecting from them. They have been spending hours and hours in the library and so on. And then he talks about a humorous case, how there was somebody who was running 3 hours every day, jogging. And very proudly he said to his friend, see, I jog 3 hours a day. And you see, as a result of that, my health is so much better and I will live 3 years more than you do, or 10 years more than you do. I will live longer. But the other fellow, very lazy fellow, who would not do much exercise at all, said, of what use is all your exercise? If you count those 3 hours per day, multiply 365 days and add them up, that so-called 3 years or 5 years or 10 years that you live extra, you have been running only. Of what use is that extra time if you have been running only? So very thought-provoking comment. But those of us who value physical exercise know that exercises are uh, things that actually help your quality of life improve. 3 hours may be a bit too much, but if somebody does an hour or hour and a half of yoga and walking or jogging regularly, that person will be more cheerful. So many health parameters of that person will be better. But Stephen Covey says, check again and again. Are you spending time and energy in production capacity and not produce? Or some other people are so eager to produce, they don't update themselves. They don't recharge themselves. They don't study or they don't brush up their knowledge, their skills. They just want to do whatever they were doing 15 years ago, 20 years ago, etc. Same thing. Then there is no growth of production capacity. There is only eagerness to produce. So they work hard, but everybody says nothing new, this person. There is all this is same stuff, same among writers and speakers also. There are people who tell the same stories, same examples, same jokes, and same way. Of what use is it? In that way, there is producing without enhancing production capacity. So, work life balance, work life integration P and PC balance, and so on and so forth. All of that is hinted at in this shloka. Yukta. Yukta means moderate. Yukta basically means appropriate. Yukta basically means well connected. Like in the case of talking, if you speak things which are well connected with the occasion, that is yukta. But you go overboard. You say many more things than what is expected, what is relevant, what is appreciated. You say much more than what other people are comfortable with because you have to take it out of your chest. Alas, then it is ayukta. Yukta, the adjectival form of yoga, is a word with a lot of significance. As per context, its meaning has to be taken. Here, appropriate, moderate is the meaning that fits well. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. Swapna here is how much you sleep. Avabodha is how much you stay awake. Swapna avabodeshu, avabodhayoho, you may say yuktaha. To him or her, yoga becomes accessible. Here, yoga means spiritual excellence. That person is very understanding, very well behaved. That person handles situations in a very enviable manner. Such a person rises in yoga, mounts the steed of yoga, and his yoga or her yoga becomes one that eliminates sorrow for him or her. Dukkha. Dukkam hanti iti dukkha. So dukkha means that which removes sorrow. Adi Shankara gives brief explanations. For ahara, he says, ahriyate iti ahara. Whatever is taken in. So in the Chandogya Upanishad 7th chapter, towards the end, there is that famous statement, ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi. Over there, Adi Shankaracharya says, whatever you take in, not only food that you eat, but names and forms you see, what you read, what videos you watch, what you hear, etc. All that is ahara. So nowadays, a major ailment that the whole world is suffering from is addiction to devices, always with the mobile, watching videos, watching all kinds of entertainment, sometimes mistaking some entertainment to be educative. No, I need to see it. This will give me more general knowledge, whatever you justify. But if it is not within certain limits, it jeopardizes rest of your life. You may be doing something which in a sense is meaningful, but in the process, you are actually neglecting some other duty of yours. So ahara is ahriyate, annam. In this portion, he says food. In Chandogya Upanishad, he gives a wider meaning. Viharanam means padakramaha. Viharaha is the word used in the shloka. Viharaha is viharanam padakramaha. Moving about, traveling, going to places, maybe in one's own town. One wants to attend every function. One wants to be present everywhere. At the drop of a hat, one accepts invitations. Then one's balance will be lost. Tau yuktau niyata parimanau yasya saha yukta ahara viharaha. The word yukta here, Shankaracharya says, is niyata parimana. Parimana is quantity. Niyata is well controlled. Speak as is appropriate. Don't go to extremes. Like that girl, upon being admonished by her parents, became so quiet, but it ended up in suppression. So at night she was blabbering something whole night. So appropriate quantity, neither more nor less. Yukta cheshtasya, cheshtaha, and various activities, karma, some special kinds of, let us say, religious rituals. So cheshta also is movement, activity. Karma also is activity. So you may take one as Laukika, another as Vaidika. Going further, Yukta Swapna Avabodhasya. Niyata Kalau, says Adi Shankara. Niyata Kala, that is duration. Duration for which you sleep. Duration for which you stay awake. So a blend of some amount of self-control, some amount of willpower. That's one side. Another is understanding. More we educate ourselves in these matters, we will be able to exercise self-control better. For example, if we know that food influences our mind, then we go for sattvic food. We go for sattvic food in moderate quantity, then the chances of our sleeping too much or talking too much, etc., are much less. Therefore, you need a holistic approach. You need to examine the entirety of your life. Going further, Sri Shankaracharya says, Yogaha bhavati dukkhaha dukkhani sarvani hanti iti dukkhaha. Sarva samsara dukkha kshaya krita, he writes. Kshaya krita, causing, ending. This yoga ends all sorrow of worldly existence. That is the meaning of dukkha. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is not to be understood as talking only of some high stuff, Atma, Paramatma, some self-realization. It talks about right living. It talks about such tuning, such calibration, such adjustments in daily life, whereby you and I live in a more harmonious manner, harmony with others and harmony with ourselves too. Because very often don't we see we are in conflict with ourselves. Our own mind scolds us, our own mind finds fault with us, our own mind says, what kind of life you are living. So no one else is talking. We have conflict in ourselves. Such things go down when we do yoga. Yoga, right living is the larger meaning of yoga. Otherwise, yoga means the yogasanas, pranayama, that's also a meaning but in a context. So, atha aduna kada yukta bhavati. How do we know someone has become yukta, well united with higher truth? Or simply put, how do we know one has risen to a higher level of spiritual living? So these are ways in which we can figure out. These are like those meters when you drive a car. 1 meter shows what speed you are going. Another shows how many kilometers you have covered. Another shows how much petrol remains in the petrol tank. And there are so many meters. Everywhere you have certain measurements. So in medical diagnosis, how is your blood pressure? How is your glucose level? How is your triglycerides, cholesterol, and creatinine? Whole pathology report. Even for machines, they have machine diagnosis, how the various parts of a machine are functioning, vibration monitoring, like that there are areas. So is the case with our life too. How do we know we have risen on the spiritual scale? The 18th shloka says, Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatishtate nispraha sarvakamebhyah yukta ityuchyate tada. All her spiritually advanced when a lady has her mind well controlled. Viniyatam chittam. Chitta is mind here. Chitta is the entire mind. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara all together. Chitta here is antakarana. The emotional mind, the intellectual mind, mind marked by memory, chitta, and the sense of doership. On one hand, we do say, no, you are Brahman, you have no boundaries, you are unlimited. On the other, somebody put it very well. Please do not think of yourself as the center of the universe. Stop thinking of yourself as the center of the universe. Then rather think of yourself as a grain of sand on a distant beach. A grain of sand on a distant beach. That way, you have to carry both. Aham Brahmasmi is true. In your true nature, there is no limit to you. But in your behavior, as a personality, the quality of humility is much praised in the scriptures. So, this lady who is advanced finds her mind more and more understanding. She becomes understanding of others' needs. She does not act just mechanically. So behavior, it's not just at the seat of meditation. On various occasions, one's behavior becomes more and more praiseworthy. Viduraniti says the sign of a wise person is he does things which are praiseworthy. Prashastani kurute, ninditani na kurute. He doesn't do things which leave alone the society. His own conscience will criticize later. Why did you do that? Why did you say that? Why did you go there? Etc. That is nindita. Ninditani na karoti, prashastani karoti, etad pandita lakshanam. This is a shloka in the very first chapter of Viduraniti in Mahabharata, which has 8 chapters. So, Viniyatam Chittam is in terms of both when we are by ourselves, we are peaceful, cheerful, in good spirits, and in relationship with people. We neither step on their toes, nor withdraw to such an extent we don't want to talk with them, we don't want to smile at them, we don't want to interact with them. That's another extreme. Can we try through a fine blend of jnana, intelligence, and sankalpa shakti, willpower? With a fine blend of willpower and understanding, can we improve all our relationships, where we give freedom to each other, where we do not step on each other's toes. Not easy, but that is the requirement for happy living. Atmani eva avatishtati. When conflicts reduce, conflicts become less and less. The mind, which otherwise is so disturbed by memories of something that went wrong, some incident, somewhere we were insulted, somewhere we were ill-treated, somewhere people neglected us. Memories arise and we feel bad. Now, we tend to thus get swept away by memories. Gita says, if you pay heed to the advice being given here, then you will find your mind becomes calmer and it doesn't get carried away by memories. It stays in the Atma. Nisprahaha. Then even if God were to come and ask, what do you want? You say, thank you. I have everything. Nisprahaha. No desire. Sarva kamebhya. In any context with regard to anything material or non-material. Yukta ityuchyate tada. So the test of the pudding is in its eating. Take a little of the pudding. Ah, how delicious, you say. Or some other time you may say something wrong with it, you keep away. Test means is it good or bad. Whether we have excelled, whether we have advanced spiritually, how do we know? No, through such criteria. These are the meters. Does my mind get forcibly drawn to memories? Does my mind irresistibly, uncontrollably want something? I wanted this, I want that. So, disturbance caused by desires, disturbance caused by unpleasant memories, have they come down? Have they reduced significantly in you? Then yuktai yuchate. You have advanced spiritually. Bhagavan Bhashyakara says, Yada viniyatam. Niyatam itself means control. Visheshena niyatam. V stands for Visheshena. Visheshena means significantly, in an adorable way, very easy to recognize. You yourself remember how you used to respond so immaturely in olden days. Now you are mature. You are doing things that need to be done. Olden days you would not do those things. And you are also carefully not doing things which you are not to do. In olden days, problem was you said or did things which are none of your business, in the process hurt people, and which were to be done, things that had to be done, you didn't have any energy to do or no motivation. I am not in a mood. All that is required is to pick up a blade of grass. A blade of grass has to be picked up. But here is a person who says, yeah, I know it doesn't require much energy to lift this blade of grass. But you know what? I am not in a mood today to do anything. What do you say? Somebody said, therefore, those who go into bad mood again and again are called Muda. In Sanskrit, there is the word Muda, deluded. Sri Shankaracharya says, Visheshena niyatam sanyatam ekagratam apannam. There is more single pointedness. Chittam. What kind of mind is that? Hitva bahya chintam. It just lets go of thoughts about the outer world. Somebody bought a big house, somebody has a big car, somebody went to 7 countries and has returned, somebody was awarded Nobel Prize in Europe, and so on. The egoistic mind, the worldly mind, unnecessarily compares oneself with them. Why was I not given Nobel Prize? Why did I not go to Japan and Singapore and Dubai and come back like she did or he did. That is Bhagya Chinta. Why do you have to do? Does everybody have to get awards? Does everybody have to get certain particular recognition? These are all unnecessary. But the worldly mind doesn't see it. The worldly mind somehow gets stuck with some fancy and becomes so stuck with that it suffers. So Bhagya Chintam Hitva, leaving aside thoughts of the outer world, Atmani Eva Kevale Avatishtate. You see, that's how spirituality works. In Dharma, which is the stepping stone to moksha, in Dharma Shastra, we are asked to be active, walk, keep moving, achieve, do things, and succeed. Necessary. But in Moksha Shastra, the same person, because the person has evolved, is asked to withdraw, let go, and become desireless. You can't go to a high school and tell them, I am telling you what I have understood through this long life of mine, young children. I don't want you to do the mistakes I had done. And what I mean is, become desireless now itself. Number one, that high school will not invite you anymore. Number two, leave alone whether they invite you or not. It's a wrong advice to high school children. Don't have desires. Nispraha sarva kame. One of you is invited to a high school, let us say, they ask you, what topic will you talk about? Yeah, I will address 10th standard students to give up all desires. That's what I learned in a spiritual class. Rama Rama. That is not for the high school students. It is for your wife and yourself who are approaching the age of 70 now. Now, leave your desires. For the high school students, if you have a chance to talk to them, advise them to have noble desires, to gather all their energy, to get focus and achieve, accomplish the goals that they may set before them. So we should not mix up Dharma Shastra with the Moksha Shastra. We should not mix up, as this chapter began, the phase when somebody is yet to mount the horse with another phase where someone is already mounted, well seated on the horse. Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karana Muchyate Yoga Arudasya Tasya Eva Shamak Karana Muchyate. Powerful verse in the beginning of this shloka. Sri Krishna says about this advanced person, Sarva Kamebhyaha Nispraha Nirgata Spraha. Spraha is gone. Spraha is wanting more, wanting a repetition. You are seeing something, you don't want any more, which doesn't mean a negative state of mind. Ordinarily in the world, if someone has no desires, people say, what's wrong with him? Why is he not asking for things as we do? Ordinarily. Because there are many people with whom something is wrong. When they don't ask for anything, maybe they are hurt inside, maybe they are so disappointed, maybe they feel so inferior about themselves. Some psychological problem. Therefore, they are apparently desireless. Actually, they have all the desires in. Then it's right to say something is wrong with them. But this is a different level. Here, truly, the person is free of desire. If he desires anything, he desires God. He desires love of God. He desires Atmanishta. Shankaracharya says, Nirgata Spraha. What is that Spraha? drishta adrishta vishayebhyah. So that desire which used to be there is withdrawn from drishta, whatever is seen or known, and whatever is adrishta, that is the enjoyments that the scriptures talk about that will be available to you in heaven. You don't see them, but you trust, you have faith in the scriptures. Spruha yasya. Spruha is nirgata, gone. Yuktaha samahitaha iti uchyate tasmin kale. Tada means tasmin kale. That's simple. Tada, then means at that time. Tada means tasmin kale. Thus, there are parameters which are given here to figure out whether we are truly advanced, how far we have come, where we stand, and so on. Not that we must be obsessed with our progress, not that we must be too attached to the results, but we must be aware. In a corner of our mind, we know where we stand. Otherwise, wrong assessment of our own spiritual maturity can lead to wrong behavior. We think we are superior, we may not be. Somewhere else we think we are inferior, we may not be. There is no need to think so less of yourself on occasions, and on other occasions, if you think that you are the most accomplished person, everybody should bow down before you, you may be wrong. So one has to be having certain awareness. One has to know. One cannot have a same behavior everywhere. In some places, you are to be respected. Some other places, you should respect the others who are around. So, a lot of real awareness is required. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om.